I should have recognized that Thurston County wasn't going to be the fit for him. You can recognize maybe that you don't necessarily always have to agree, but you can also acknowledge that your decision has hurt people's feelings and things like that. Both of those things can be true at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's where I felt bad, honestly, is just that I recognize that there's a lot of people who have a lot of faith in me for a lot of different reasons, whether it be racial or socioeconomic, my past, all these different things that I've tried to bring to the table. And I did feel bad that I wasn't able to recognize this for all involved parties.
Yeah, but you realize that you'll never be able to please everyone.
Nope. Clearly.
And at some point, as the sheriff, you have to trust in your own gut and your own instincts for that reason, right? So I guess, how does it change your decision-making moving forward, having gone through that? This segment is brought to you by Eastside Weight Loss Clinic. I'm down 37 pounds on the program, and I lost most of that in just 2 months. Do what I did and what so many other undivided viewers have done. Schedule your free 15-minute consultation today at eastsideweightlossclinic.com.
Well, and again, with this whole thing, the sheriff's office has been terribly staffed for a long time. And so when I got elected, it was very much put a pause on everything. If it's not staffing related, I already don't care. Like, we have to get the staffing done. And that is it's really like dominated my life and my entire thought process. So I think moving forward on any decision making, I think I just need to slow down a little bit more, because honestly, in hindsight, I think I could have had a much more realistic conversation with Burbank about, like, hey man, Thurston County probably isn't the place where you're going to want to work. And I could have foreseen that. Sorry. And I think that was the biggest error that I made in all of that is, I feel like I've done a pretty good job over the last 16 months about gauging community interest in the things that we're doing and explaining why we're doing things the way we do. And this one was just one where I totally had a lapse.
Well, I can appreciate I'm very pro-police, as long as you're a good officer. I can appreciate your desire and your recognition that you're a public servant, and that there is a big segment that just doesn't like the police, but it doesn't make their voices, I gotta take a deep breath and say this, doesn't make their voices less valid as citizens of the state, So I can get there. My concern is, and I articulated on the show, I view you as a soldier in our fight for sanity. I really do. I think you've spoken out about things when others won't, on public safety issues. So it was almost like this, oh no, he gave into the mob again. I did feel that way, because you also issued an endorsement in a school board race. The crazy mob's like, how could you do this? This person's anti-trans, like went after him for coming to an event with me, which I'm not anti-trans. Right. So I know you had your own reasons for deciding to rescind that endorsement, but then this happened. So do you feel like you've emboldened that segment of maybe the activist crowd that's going to believe, well, all we have to do is put enough pressure on Sheriff Sanders and he'll do whatever we want him to do?
No, because I push back on a number of other things, in my opinion. There's also been pushback on pursuit laws and things like that, where I've absolutely 100% stood my ground. Yeah. And this is the same concern that I'm sure other people have as well. But in everything that I'm doing, and I recently had a lateral deputy come on board, and we were talking about this, and I was like, yeah, this is rough, like this just sucks. And, one of the claims is, no one's going to want to come work for you now. Yeah. And it was interesting and it helped me a lot, because he's like, well, I want to come work for you. And the reason I want to come work for you is no one wants to work for someone who always thinks they're right and can't reverse course. So I think there is a balance there, right? I'll be totally frank. The reason I took this job is because the person before me never said sorry, never acknowledged they were ever wrong. I never once heard an apology for anything they ever said. So I think there's two extremes, and I'm always trying to find that middle ground. Like, to assume that I'm never going to have to rescind a decision is silly. Everyone wants the sheriff who's just going to do whatever he wants and stick to it and never turn back. And to me, that seems like the same course that everyone else. I mean, you're going to end up at a point where you really think you're always right and that you never make a mistake and have to apologize and turn around and go the other direction. So it's a balance, but I would say there's been enough things that I think I've demonstrated that I will push back on: bail reform, all these types of things that are hurting us. That I think there's enough evidence to suggest that I'm not just going to fold over every time. But I also have to look, the same thing with the endorsement, like, I have to weigh what's most important to me and my staff in my agency. And that was another important lesson to learn about endorsements. And, not that I should or shouldn't have endorsed, but being careful and strategic about what I'm doing.